Hello and welcome to the Outlast Speedrunning 2021 Definitive Guide. My name is Mason or Mason Bitbyte, and I will be walking you through everything you need to know to get started. For specific parts, please skip to the timestamp on screen now or use the timestamps in the pinned comment. If you do have any questions, do not hesitate to ask in the Outlast Speedrunning Discord server, which is also linked in the description. Let's go ahead and get started. Part 1. Game Setup. Game Launcher and Settings. To start, ensure you are running OutlastLauncher.exe, not the Steam version. The Steam version has heavy amounts of save lag and will remove your aiming dot among other bugs. To do this, go to your install directory. For me that is C drive, program files, x86, Steam, Steam apps, Common, and Outlast. But this path may be different depending on what drive your game is installed to. To find out what drive your game is installed to, open Steam, right-click on the game in your library and hit Properties. Navigate to the Local Files tab and hit Browse Local Files. OutlastLauncher.exe should be in this directory. You can save it as a desktop icon by right-clicking, hovering over Send To, and click Desktop Create Shortcut. Once Outlast is open, set all of your settings to very low and disable VSync if enabled. You can choose whether to disable motion blur if you like, but I keep it disabled. Gamma is something you should leave at 3, which is the maximum slider value, just to make it easier to see. You may rebind the controls however you want, with the exception of binding jump to mouse wheel up, down, or middle mouse button. Stat FPS. To show your FPS in-game without additional software, you can use a binding to enable Stat FPS, which will show your in-game FPS and frame render times. This is required if you are planning to attempt flat ground B-humps, but is also recommended regardless, as it helps prove the legitimacy of your run. To enable Stat FPS as a keybind, navigate to your Outlast installation directory, then Outlast, OL Game, and Config. Then open Default Input INI in a text editor, such as Notepad. Scroll down to the Keyboard and Mouse section of the file and paste in the line in the description. This will bind your F1 key to show FPS in game once you are loaded in. It will need to be pressed every time you relaunch, but will persist until you close the game. You can change this key to something else if you do not like using F1. Knobboard. To show your keystrokes and mouse inputs, most notably scroll wheel, you can use an open source program called Knobboard with a window capture and OBS or your preferred recording software. Your knobboard layout must include your scroll wheel and mouse inputs. You can either download the software at the link in the description or use the basic layout in the Outlast SR prefab linked in the description and also on the Speedrunning.com resources page. Once this program is running, add it as a window capture in OBS and scale it to wherever you want on the screen. Live split and timing. Timing is done using the community-made autosplitter built into an app called LiveSplit. If you have never used LiveSplit, you can download it with the link in the description and use this tutorial by Smallant to help customize your LiveSplit to make it look however you want. The autosplitter is configurable so you can choose where it splits. Timing for main game begins at the first frame of movement after you gain control of Miles when he leaves his Jeep, and ends on the frame of his hand completely on the ground, touching the black and yellow stripes. The frame for this is on screen now. To keep the car cutscene, keep the save that the game gives you after Miles leaves his Jeep, called Admin Gates, and load this every time you want to start a new run. This should also fix any issues you have with the autosplitter's automatic starting feature. Part 2. Rules. Keybinds and input. You are not allowed to bind jump to your scroll wheel for any reason. You are also not allowed to use input macros for any reason. If you plan to attempt flat ground B-humps like this, then you must have an on-screen FPS counter and show keystrokes at all times. Console players do not apply to this rule. Game files. You are not allowed to modify any game INI for any reason, such as field of view, movement speed, and any other value, except to add debug tool bindings or change checkpoint names. You are also required to keep the game files intact. For instance, the mod menu or all unlocked doors mod is not allowed. The only categories that are exempt from this rule are Super Jump and Macca%, which have their respective criteria and category rules. Editing anything related to movement speed or speed of the animations in the INI files and trying to pass it off as a legitimate run will be considered cheating and will likely result in being banned from Speedrunning.com as a whole. Submission video. In your submission video, there may not be any major frame loss or skipping in the video. Major is considered to be 4 to 6 seconds of complete freezing or more. Minor frame drops and artifacting are okay as long as the video is still of an acceptable quality. Runs must also be at 29 FPS or higher and in 480p minimum. The saving icon in the bottom left must be visible at all times. The Xene category is an exception to this because the game has no saves, but the run also must capture a few seconds before the first frame of movements and a few seconds after player loss of control to ensure proper retiming. General gameplay. The level must be fully loaded at the start of the run, and you are not allowed to start your run with enter hops. You are also not allowed to move your aiming dot before you move forward in the run. An example of this would be bumping the mouse or facing the gate before you hit the W key. Glitches. Door clipping. A door clip is where your character passes through a door by opening and closing it, causing the door to become non-solid. This can also be achieved by getting on a hitbox and then the door being broken down by an enemy like this clip in the security room. Butt bouncing. Butt bouncing is upon exiting a vent, you would hit space to bounce on the ground in a crouched position. Ledge running. Ledge running is where you either look back while running across a shimmy or jump on it to skip around it. Wall riding. Wall riding is where you shrink the player's hitbox to coast along a wall while someone is inside of it, allowing you to pass through solid objects and even the wall itself. Door hops. A door hop is where you hold a door and either jump backwards and forwards to boost on top of the doorway. The aim of this glitch is to get on top of the door's collision, and as most walls are only half high in terms of the hitbox. Part 3. Categories. Main game categories. Any percent. If you are familiar with speedrunning, you've probably heard the term any percent being used. If you aren't familiar with what that means, any percent means getting any percentage of completion, or in simpler terms, getting from the game's start to the game's end as quickly as possible, regardless of how much content is skipped in the middle. It is the most common category you will see in speedrunning and the most popular category in Outlast. In Outlast, any percent, we use a skip called bush skip to reach the game's end as quickly as possible. All chapters. All chapters, commonly abbreviated as AC, is a lesser known category. The aim is to get a save in every chapter while beating the game as fast as possible. Usage of door hops, wall ride, and door clips are allowed, but you must play every chapter in chronological order, and the saving icon must appear once, at least in every chapter. If you want to run this category, a guide can be found here in the description. Glitchless No Save and Quit. This is one of the most popular categories aside from any percent. It consists of mainly pure movement instead of focusing on glitches. This category is very beginner friendly compared to other categories that rely heavily on glitches, such as the aforementioned all chapters. For glitches, or glass as it is commonly called, you must not perform any glitches such as wall riding, ledge running, door hops, or door clips. You may not save and quit to gain enter hops or to put you further into the level. You also may not skip over the falling floor in female ward or jump over the ledge just before the falling floor. You may also not stand too close to the door in the security room after Father Martin turns off the power as Chris comes through. Continuing on, you cannot skip the animation in lab by vaulting over the railing after the wall rider transfer hosts to you, and you may also not jump down the ladders in sewers. No out of bounds. Usage of any glitch is allowed as long as your hitbox does not leave the map boundaries, and you must get at least one checkpoint in every chapter. You can tell if you go out of bounds if things start to deload and the screen goes black. Tutorial is linked in the description. 100%. 100% is where you get every collectible, notes, and documents by any means necessary. This is one of the more technical categories in terms of both glitches and optimal movement. You must show both notes and documents at the end of a run. There should be a total of 62, 31 notes, and 31 documents. Usage of all glitches are allowed, and you can find the tutorial for this linked in the description. Whistleblower categories. Any percent. Any percent is where we aim to beat the Whistleblower DLC as fast as possible using any glitches we have at hand. Any percent for Whistleblower is drastically different to main game, as we just don't do one glitch to skip immediately to the end. Tutorials for this category can be found here and here in the description. All chapters. All chapters is where we intend to beat the Whistleblower DLC as fast as possible while getting a save in every chapter. All chapters for Whistleblower is very similar to the any percent, meaning 75% of the run is essentially identical, except at the end where a different skip is used. Only one tutorial will be needed, provided as the rest of the round is the same as any percent, which is linked in the description. Glitchless No Save and Quit. Glitchless is by far the most run category for Whistleblower. It is also once again the most beginner-friendly category. For Glitchless, you must not perform any glitches such as wall rides, ledge running, door hops, or door clips. You also may not save and quit to gain enter hops or to put you further into the level. You are also forbidden from skipping the standing up jump scare in hospital where the variant says, "Where the fuck are you trying to go?" The tutorial for this category is linked in the description. No out of bounds. This category is not often ran on Whistleblower. Usage of any glitch is allowed as long as your hitbox does not leave the map boundaries and you get at least one checkpoint in every chapter. You can tell if you go out of bounds if things start to deload and the screen goes black. There is no tutorial for this category. 100%. 100% is where you get every collectible, notes, and documents by any means necessary. This is another one of the more technical categories in both terms of glitches and optimal movement. You must show both notes and documents at the end of the run. There should be a total of 31, 13 notes, and 18 documents, and the tutorial for this category is linked in the description. Category extensions. One hand. One hand, or OH as it is also called, is where you try to beat the game using only one hand. All glitches are permitted, no B-hops are allowed. Super jump. Super jump is where you try to beat the game as fast as possible with an altered jump height. All glitches are permitted. Setup for this category is in the category rules. and this is one of the main exceptions to the modification of your INI files. 10 batteries. 10 batteries or 10 bats is where we aim to achieve 10 batteries on the camcorder as fast as possible, indicated by the 10 out of 10 on the top left. No B-hops are allowed for this category. Wheelchair to Heaven. Wheelchair to Heaven, or WTH, is where we try to get the Wheelchair to Heaven glitch as fast as possible, which can be achieved by triggering Traeger's cutscene twice. No B-hops are allowed in this category. FAC, or Fuck a Cat, is where we try to reach the part of one of your pursuers and male ward throws a line, there is more than one way to fuck a cat, come on. No B-hops are allowed and English subtitles must be enabled at this category. Thank you for watching this guide. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out in the Outlast Discord or the speedrunning.com's forum page, and thank you for watching. Have a good day.